margin of error is just thin or slim or just not as big as it normally is?
Well, yeah, I think offensively, I don't know. I think they defended well. I guess we didn't do enough to create enough looks. We had some looks more in the first period, but I don't know. They were above pucks. They were defending well, and like I said, power play, we didn't get anything going, which is unfortunate because that's where you could, if you're struggling a little bit, if you get a goal or good power play, that gives you energy, but not able to do that today.
Those are the post-game comments from Mikko Rantanen after the Avs fall at home to the Edmonton Oilers this evening by a score of 4-1 with an empty netter. Nikolai Kovalenko opens up the scoring 7 minutes into that first period. However, Edmonton storms back 4 unanswered goals on 32 shots. Alexander Georgiev played pretty darn well against an Edmonton attack for two teams that were playing on the second leg of a back-to-back. Edmonton very much looked the side that didn't have to play yesterday as Colorado falls to 13-12. Welcome into Between the Pipes here on Altitude Sports Radio's Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch accounts. Alex Ryanemi alongside Mark Springer. Thanks to our friends at Safeway, and thanks to D-Mac from getting us that video from the Avs locker room. Spring, for me, I thought this was a game that lacked life for the Avalanche outside the first period, that lacked energy. And I wanted to play that post-game comment from Rantanen, not because of the actual words that he was saying, but for the sound that was coming from that room. I know it's the second leg of a back-to-back, but that room sounded dead. That room felt like it had no life. And watching on the broadcast this evening, it did feel as though that Ball Arena was lacking energy as well.
Real quick, Edmonton, they did play last night. So they got on a play. They played in Utah.
Right, that's what I'm saying is that both teams were coming off back-to-back, and Edmonton for the two teams that played on a back-to-back, Colorado looked like they did. Edmonton didn't look like they gave a fuck.
Edmonton, they were the better team. I thought the Avs played okay. I thought it was fine. But Edmonton was better. They wanted it more. Stuart Skinner had a good game in net, I thought he was very good for Edmonton. Not a ton of dangerous chances for Colorado, though, at least, from my eyeballs, despite throwing 28 shots at him, 32 on goal for Edmonton. This stands out. The Avs got crushed in the faceoff circle, 37-16. Edmonton beat him tonight. The Avs aren't a great faceoff team. The power play continues to struggle. I was just listening to the Altitude post game. Mosier said they're 4 for their last 29. Remember, their first handful of games, they were 50% on the power play. They're 4 of their last 29. The power play went dormant in the middle portions of last night's game, 1 for 5 tonight. Why is the power play struggling? The only answer I can come up with, because, you have no problem with Makar at the point, McKinnon on the left side, Rantanen on the right side. Nichushkin, I think, despite the power play struggles, Nichushkin has been good net front on the power play, and I'm happy to see him reinserted into that role. That's where he's been in years past. It's where he should be. So the only thing I can think of is Casey Middlestat, who doesn't have a single point now in his last 6 games. I talked about Arturi Lehkonen only having 1 assist in his last 7 or so games coming into last night, where he did get a third period goal. No points for Lehkonen again tonight. So there's a point outage. There's a power outage from certainly Casey Middlestat with no points in his last 6 games. Lehkonen struggling as well. Lehkonen has been good in that bumper role. Ross Colton was amazing in that bumper role before he got hurt. Is it Casey Middlestat? I don't know what it is, because the pieces are there. I know they like to overpass on the power play. They're having trouble just entering the zone on a lot of these power plays. But the personnel is there. We've seen it thrive. I don't know what it is, Raj. I'll point to Casey Middlestat, who's not playing well in the bumper role.
The personnel is for me. I don't think the personnel is the issue. You have to put your best players out in the ice when you're on a power play. I think it's the stubbornness of the system of Bednar and Pratt not willing to go to something else when it's not working, because when it does work and when the Avs power play does work, and what we've seen over the past 6-7 seasons is that it's one of the 7 best in the league. Every single year, that's what the numbers pan out to be, is that it just scores at without a doubt, a top 10 clip. Like eyes closed, it's a top 10 power play in the league through the course of 82 games. But when it doesn't go well, and they do go through these long stretches, like they get like mega hot and then they go ice cold, and they get mega hot and then they go ice cold. Kind of what Casey Middlestat's going through individually right now at 5-on-5 as well. When they go ice cold, they don't change anything. They just go, well, we'll eventually snap out of it, and then we'll go for a game where we'll go 3 of 5, and the next game we'll go 2 of 4, and the game after that we'll go 2 of 5, and the game after that we'll go 1 of 3, and then everything's okay. But when they go through these long stretches, Spring, they don't change anything. They don't go to a double swing on the power play breakout. They don't decide to go outman a puck on a dump and change. And I understand that you don't want to give up possession on a power play. I get that. That's not what the new NHL is about. It's about possession, possession, possession when you come into the offensive zone on the main opportunity. But when you get into the zone as well, you mentioned it, they like to overpass. This power play unit, that power play 1 unit, looks to make the perfect play every damn time. When it's clicking, it's awesome. When it's clicking, I don't have a problem. But when you're snake bitten like you are right now, you have to change something. Maybe you don't go on a box +1. Maybe you don't go on this umbrella where you're just trying to find a way to feed your flanks on one-timers. Maybe you change something up. Maybe you run overload off the half wall. Maybe you do something different just to give some new feels to it. And for me, that's the issue right now. But as I say that, the cold streak will eventually snap, and then they're going to go back to being one of the top 5 power plays in the NHL. It's just frustrating to watch because they just bang their head against a wall knowing that eventually it's going to break. But you go through these 3, 4, 5 game stretches where it's just going to suck to watch. That's what it was tonight and yesterday and the day before and the day before.
Yeah, and it's funny, and I guess a quick correction on my part too. Lehkonen did have an assist. He had the primary assist on their lone goal tonight, which was a power play goal for the second power play unit. Is that the fix? Just let them play. It's Kovalenko, it's Lehkonen, it's Ivan, and we love our 2 defensemen on power play too. I know everybody loves it, but it's actually been it's contributed to at least a couple goals this season, having Taves and Girard out there. And it's such a simple little play that they score that goal on power play too. They make it look so easy. It was just Girard into the zone to Lehkonen, cross ice to Kovalenko, who finds space, bam, one-timer score. So easy. I don't know. Just watch that film, Power Play 1. They make it look so easy. Speaking of Devon Taves, he had a very good game tonight. He saved a goal, net front on a little cross-ice pass that was going towards the crease, and Devon Taves batted that pass away, or else that was a goal. That kept the Avs in it early. He has a good game, and it's frustrating to see a good Devon Taves performance wasted because he's playing hurt. And you're not going to get his A performance every night. I thought it was very good defensively. I thought overall defensively they were solid. The Avs just couldn't capitalize on their opportunities offensively. They just weren't overly dangerous. To me, it was somewhat there. But as far as finishing, as far as bodying in front and making the crucial play, it just wasn't there tonight. But I'd rather look if there's going to be a little bit of this, I'd rather it happen on November 30th. So okay, they're figuring some things out. You hate to lose back-to-back against a couple quality opponents after the Vegas win. There's a win over a quality opponent, but now you don't pick any points up out of 4 in the last 2 nights. It's a little frustrating, but these are the 2 teams ahead of the Avs odds-wise to win the West. The 2 teams with better odds. You've seen them in the last 2 nights. Dallas last night, the second best odds. Edmonton, the best odds tonight. Edmonton's a very good team. They are. They've gotten tougher too. That they're a more physical team than they have been in years past, and maybe they've solved their goaltending issue a little better than the Avs have. These are two solid teams that have struggled with consistency in goal, consistency physically, defensively. But Edmonton have they shored this up a little better, and it just finding this, Stuart Skinner, a guy from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. He's from Edmonton. He's coming to his own a little bit. They seem to have more of an answer in Skinner than the Avs have.
I wouldn't say it's a big gap between Skinner and Georgiev. I think Skinner is one of the hottest and coldest goaltenders in the National Hockey League. I think there's a lot of Edmonton Oilers fans that would disagree with that take, that like Edmonton's still very much in the race to try and go get an upgrade at goalie. However, I do think you've hit it right on the head. Edmonton has created and grown some fuck you to their game throughout the entirety of the roster. Like there is some snarl there that maybe it's just it's grown from Draisaitl, because he's got that, and you saw a little bit of it in McDavid during the NHL's behind the scenes series that they did with Amazon in the offseason that came out, which was phenomenal. If you guys haven't watched it thus far, there is a little bit of C red in them, which 2 years ago when the Avs waltzed through them in the Western Conference Final, they were a cupcake. They were a pushover team. Colorado hasn't found a way to get that up and down the lineup. And it has been a little frustrating to see that Nathan MacKinnon does have that, and it hasn't permeated throughout the roster. Edmonton has that. Colorado right now does not. I think when you started off that comment, you did say, listen, it is early. You've got plenty of time. You are 13-12. 500 is frustrating for this team that has cup aspirations. I will stick to my guns, though. I gave the Avalanche until you go on the 5-game road trip back east that starts against Buffalo in a couple of days. This was my feel it out period. This was get used to each other. Hopefully you can get a bunch of wins. If you still hover around 500, I'm okay with it. And listen, my opinion does not matter to that team. My opinion, my evaluation does not matter to that roster or to that locker room. It's just what you and I are paid to do, is have an opinion, have a game plan for this roster moving forward. My game plan was figure it out by the time November turns into December. In December, regardless of it being a tough schedule, it's put up or shut up. Show us that you can separate. Show us that you can close the gap on Dallas. Show us that you can close the gap on Minnesota. Or are you just a middling 500 team? It starts this month.
Yeah, I mean, the physicality that Edmonton brought tonight, and it's not quite reflected in the stats, is the Avs were credited with 16 hits, the Oilers only with 9. But look, I thought that Darnell Nurse, and we've seen him for years with the Oilers, but he was tough to play against tonight. Matthias Ekholm brought some bag. He got into it with Chris Wagner. There was double roughing penalties called. This Vasily Podkolzin, young former top 10 pick who was traded to the Oilers, only 23 years old. He was a 10th overall pick in 2019 of the Canucks. This kid bodies up Casey Middlestat. In front of he completely gains position. This 23-year-old kid bullies Casey Middlestat and gets the tip in on the shot from the point. Adam Henrique, who they acquire at the deadline last year, he has an assist. He's a +2. He throws 4 shots on goal. Now, one of them was as the game was expiring, and Ludwig, the young Avs defenseman, took exception and got in his face for that. But there's some FU. There's some FU from the Oilers tonight. They were a physical team. Evan Bouchard has grown as a solid 2-way defenseman. He has an assist and is a +2. They're not the Oilers of a couple years ago that were a little lighter. They threw their body around, and I'll look at that Podzolkin, whatever his name is, that body up a Middlestat. There's another thing from Middlestat. You can't lose that battle. You can't lose that battle as a second-line center to a young 23-year-old. And he does, and it allows the tip in to beat Georgiev. So they also get out physical tonight by Edmonton, and that's something you wouldn't say in years past.
No, it is frustrating to have to watch something like that, where the team just doesn't have the get-go. And I could make the excuse if Edmonton wasn't on the second leg of a back-to-back, but Edmonton had to get on a plane and come to Colorado just like you did. They did the same exact thing that Colorado did last night. And while you score 7 goals against Florida, the Avs have scored 7 goals in their last 4 games since the Florida game. They're 1-3. You're just not clicking offensively. The 5-on-5 feels toothless right now. And whether it's injuries or starting to try and find some new gel with the top 6 because you've gotten Nichushkin back, I don't know what it is. It is very early. The team is still above 500, and you're within shouting distance of your competitors in the Central right now. It does feel like you're wanting a little bit more right now. You're not getting enough contribution from your middle tier players right now. And it's a shame because it's like the last 2 games that Georgiev's played, he's been good enough to win the hockey game. I don't think Colorado was good enough to win the hockey game tonight. No shot. I thought Edmonton was hands down the better team tonight. Last night against Dallas, different story. Dude, if you're going to tell me that Colorado deserved to win this game.
No, I'm not saying they deserve to win. I thought that they fought. I thought they skated okay. It wasn't their best. I think there was a shift from it was Kiviranta and O'Connor with either Ivan or Kelly, but it was a good hard-fought shift where they get a couple of shots on goal. Like they were moving, but those players, they're not gonna snipe on you. They'll scrap and they'll try to put things on net.
You're right.
Mikko, Nate had 10 shots on goal last night. He had 7 shots on goal tonight. But Mikko and Nate, Lehkonen, Middlestad, the only of the horses that I feel right now, when he's involved in the play, whether it's touching the puck or even just moving around the play, it's Valeri Nichushkin. Hell, he gets called for an interference or a high sticking early in the second period, but he's forechecking his ass off on that play. He moves. He's fast. You see him. Now, McKinnon is naturally fast, but for some reason, he's not as explosive of late. Even with the 10 shots on goal last night, even with the 7 shots on goal last night, he's not creating that space right now. The only horse who I feel like is dangerous is Nichushkin. I don't know what it is. Is it tired legs? Now, McKinnon has played every game this year. Rantanen's played every game this year. Middlestad has played every game this year. Nichushkin's fresher. I don't know if that's what it is. McDavid was better than McKinnon tonight, despite the 7 shots on goal. McDavid was more dangerous. I don't want to see that on your home ice. That should be McKinnon beating McDavid. But tonight, McDavid was better than McKinnon on the road. That's just what it was.
He was better. He was the better hockey player tonight. I always look at McKinnon, and obviously his shot percentage is going to be lower than his counterparts because of how often he shoots the puck. However, the gap right now between him and the rest of the dudes that are pacing the lead in scoring right now is ridiculous. I think it's just a point of McKinnon being like a little. It's funny because he's 2 points off the scoring lead. McKinnon he's snake bitten right now. Whether he's hitting posts or not being able to get it past Jake Ottinger on a rebound yesterday early on in the game, dangling through people and just not finding the back of the net. Something's going on with him just being snake bit. And I think it's kind of the same thing with the Avalanche, is that it's just head against a wall constantly, and then eventually it's going to break through. And he's going to score in droves. If you look at the numbers, the numbers are nuts right now, Spring. Nathan McKinnon is shooting 7.9% right now. He is 2 points off the scoring lead in the National Hockey League. There is not a single player inside the top 25 that is shooting in the single digits. The next closest player is Quinn Hughes, a defenseman shooting at 6.9%, who only has 5 goals this year. There is not a single forward in the top. I can't even get to. There's not a single forward in the top 50 of the leading scorers in the National Hockey League that are shooting in a single-digit percentage. It's insane.
Yeah, and he had when the Avs pulled their goalie, he had a look when they were down 2 that Skinner just barely saved, and it was Bouchard who was the only available. Who there wasn't an Av in the area. Like Lehkonen maybe had a look to crash on net, but he wasn't there. That puck just trickles through Skinner. Bouchard is there, clears it away like that. We've seen that puck get through many goaltenders. It didn't get through Stuart Skinner there. Yeah, he's getting similar looks. You know, is it a? I'm trying to think. Is it a lack of one-time slap shots? A lot of snap and wrist shots from McKinnon.
He hasn't taken many on the power play as of late, like that little setup one-timer. Teams are kind of trying to take it away because he is so good at it, but he hasn't taken many. It's a really good observation.
Yeah, just haven't felt, and even from Rantanen on the other side, it's a lot of holding the puck on the wings instead of just firing one-timers. That's how they score on power play too with Kovalenko. Just fire a one-timer.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a crazy stat. I mean, that is, and I don't know how to explain away that stat because, you know, he's 17 shots on goal in the last 2 nights, and while I don't think he's played on his A game of late, he's been pretty good. I can't explain that.
It's unbelievable. The next forward that you would have to find in terms of shooting percentage that is in the single digits is number 52 this year. David Pastrnak, who has 8 goals, 14 assists for 22 points in 25 games played. He is shooting at an 8% clip, which is a good 1.5% better, or sorry, 1% better, right? Did I say McKinnon was at 6.9 or 7.9? Never mind. They're shooting essentially the same thing. Pastrnak shooting at 8%. McKinnon is shooting at 7.9%. You have to go all the way to the 52nd ranked player to find the next forward shooting in the single-digit percentages.
I mean, maybe the dam is going to break. Maybe that's what that is an indication of, which, yeah, it's crazy that he can be 2 off the lead of points in the NHL, but be snake bitten. Well, he only has 7 goals this year. You know, most of these point leaders have double-digit goals. There's some who don't, but for Nathan McKinnon to only have 7 goals, it's actually the lowest number on the board. Of all of the point leaders, man, I got to scroll until I get to Sebastian Aho at 31, who has 7 goals. Nate's living off of his 29 assists. So, yeah, he's not finding the goal scoring like he has been. He has become a great distributor in recent years. I've talked about his elevated point guard prowess, his passing ability, his knack of finding his teammates. They're not finishing for him right now. He's had a ton of assists this year. But yeah, he's not scoring. Only 7 goals. All of the leaders have more than 7 goals until you get to Aho at 31, and then there's your boy, our boy, scratch that, Quinn Hughes with 5 goals at 32. Everyone else, Drake Batherson has more goals than Nathan McKinnon. Zach Werenski has more goals than Nathan McKinnon.
That's insane.
Anthony Cirelli, Stefan Nosen, Jared McCann, Nick Suzuki, Alex Tuck.
Mark Springer, you know who has more goals than Nathan McKinnon and hasn't played in 3 weeks?
Connor McDavid.
Ross Colton. Ross Colton has more goals than Nathan McKinnon and hasn't played in like 15 days or whatever it's been since the broken foot. That's what we're talking about.
But Nate had a stretch recently where I'm talking like, can he top last season?
I mean, he still might be able to. I feel as though the dam will break for him. It's those numbers, right? I was telling you yesterday when we were talking about the Mikko Rantanen thing, and after we move on from tonight's game, we will get into the next transaction talk that happened earlier today with the Avalanche. The math just isn't mathing for me with Rantanen. The same thing has to go with Nathan McKinnon's shooting percentage.
Yeah, Mikko was fine. Mikko was fine tonight. I didn't notice him much. I'll be honest. Tonight was not a great case for why he should be the highest paid player in the NHL. I'll say that.
I would agree. Here, let's listen to what the head coach Jared Bednar had to say post game.
Well, I don't know. Like energy, I think is part of it. So if we don't have it, if our top guys aren't like clicking on all cylinders on a nightly basis, it's tough to win.
We've talked a lot in the last couple of years about Nate and his efforts in pulling the team to wins. At times he's kind of going through a dry stretch a little bit. Does that compound some of the other issues maybe going on?
Well, I mean, we're asking them to do a lot, on a nightly basis. Those guys are playing a lot. They're playing all situations. I don't know about dry spell for Nate, hasn't scored in a little bit, but I think he's still been impactful and playing hard. So, but yeah, I mean, it just seems like if it isn't those guys scoring is tough to come by, and yeah, you got guys on the other team we're trying to check against multiple lines with their line, and it's some heavy lifting for those guys right now.
I think echoing a lot of what we just said about Nathan MacKinnon, where you do like the play that he's driving, it's just not finding the back of the net. And unfortunately, with the way that this team is set up, as Nathan MacKinnon and as the top guns go, so do the Colorado Avalanche. And you are not built with the goaltending that can outplay your opposition on a semi-consistent basis when your top guys aren't running. If MacKinnon, Makar, and Rantanen don't play well, more often than not, the Avalanche don't win hockey games.
Well, and here's something I should bring up along these lines is the lines. Speaking of the word lines. So last night we saw MacKinnon, Lehkonen, Nichushkin really is your top line. Tonight it was MacKinnon, Lehkonen, Rantanen as your top line, and Nichushkin down with Middlestat, with Kovalenko remaining on that second line. I would try, if you're listening, Jared Bednar, I'd try Logan O'Connor on the second line. I think Kovalenko and Ivan, who have gotten some run on that second line, I like their promise. I do like their play, but I would go with your most proven, reliable bottom six skater. And that's what Kovalenko and Ivan are. They're bottom six. Someone's getting elevated into the top six. I would go with your most proven asset. Is Logan O'Connor a world beater? No. And I understand wanting OC on, and I might say Miles Wood. You could say whoever it is, but turns out Miles Wood is going to be out for a damn long time, which sucks.
Month to month. We said it yesterday. When Bednar says we don't know, it means really freaking long.
Yeah, that sucks. This is our first month to month. We've had some weeks to weeks. I hate to hear a month to month. Hell, actually, what's Manson? Is he week to week or month to month? Seems like he's month. He seems like he's month to month too.
Manson, I believe, is day to day.
Oh, he's day to day. Thank God.
It was either Manson or Shillington that he said was day to day in the post game presser. Don't quote me on that. I do know, Colton is for a fact week to week. The chances of him coming back after the Avs go on this 5-game, 10-day roadie on the East Coast are high. Same thing with Drouin. Wood is out for a very long time. Okay.
But yeah, I would go with O'Connor up there. That's what I would do.
Doc Holiday 1022 Spring says, sorry, Taves just doesn't impress me.
I thought he had a good game tonight. I thought Calvin DeHaan actually was I thought he had a couple moments playing instead of Oliver Shillington. Now those two have kind of been rotating this year. I thought the defense was fine, actually. I didn't think that was their problem. I thought their problem tonight was finding those true high danger looks offensively. And that should be easier to come by with the studs that they have. And they just weren't there tonight. I thought it was good, but it wasn't dangerous. It just wasn't dangerous.
It was toothless.
Yeah.
It was completely toothless tonight. And I think that's the reason why when you and I, right before we cracked the mics, I kind of came on with a sourpuss attitude and was upset with it. Obviously, you guys heard it out of my mouth earlier on. And I think that's where it was, because I just watched a hockey game where Colorado never really felt like they were dangerous the whole hockey game. And for me, watching Edmonton in the same exact situation have grade A after grade A was frustrating. And I thought Georgiev rose to the occasion. Did he outplay Skinner? No. But the team around him was outplayed by Edmonton's, and that was the more frustrating thing to me.
Manson week to week.
Week to week for Manson. All right, that's fine. All right, Spring. That's it for me on tonight's game.
Well, I have one more thought. I have one more. Just it made me laugh. Like the funniest moment to me of tonight's game was when Connor McDavid punched. Who did he punch in the face? He punched Calvin DeHaan. Speaking of him, punched him in the face. It was kind of like a high stick-ish type play where McDavid's like turning and his hands up high, and he straight up punches the dude in the face, and he's flabbergasted. McDavid is flabbergasted. Now, I know it was an accident. I know it was.
Oh, I don't think it was.
You don't think it was?
Oh, no, I don't think it was. I think
so surprised.
I think Connor McDavid was pissed off that he got dispossessed of a puck on a power play by Calvin DeHaan, and he literally, like, I think he tried to get away with just like a, hey, screw you. Who do you think you are? I'm going to sock you in the face and get the puck back myself and go score while I do it. I think that was completely intentional.
Oh, well, he reacted as if, like, hands up. What? What did I do? Bro, you clearly, now your hands were on your stick, but a punch to the face is a punch to the face. That's a high stick. It's a rough. It's whatever you want to call it. You can't punch a dude in the face. I don't care if it's an accident or not. Now hey, maybe it was. Because, yeah, getting stripped by Calvin DeHaan, if you're Connor McDavid, that's probably the last person on the Avs you want to get stripped by.
Yeah, I don't think that was a
okay.
I don't think that was an accident.
All right, let's talk about Justus Onanen.
All right, so the big news of the day today with the Avalanche prior to today's game happened in the middle of the morning, like right around halftime of the big game where Michigan stuns Ohio State 13-10 today. The Avalanche send Justus Onanen to the Nashville Predators for journeyman, veteran backup goaltender Scott Wedgwood. The Avalanche also send a 6th-round draft pick on the way to Nashville as a little bit of a sweetener. And Avs Nation, Avs faithful, collectively lost their minds on a trade for backup goaltending. And I got comments on Twitter about how this signals the end of the Avalanche Cup window. I was not aware that backup goaltenders were the harbingers of Stanley Cups past, present, and future, but apparently that's where we are today, Spring, is that Justus Onanen was the key to the Avalanche winning Stanley Cups. While he did impress against bad teams earlier this year, and while he did inspire a little bit more confidence for me than Alexander Georgiev has in terms of his consistency, well, maybe that's just the low bar for the Avalanche in the crease, is that there is no consistency. So anytime someone shows me something, I get a little bit excited. For me, this doesn't have much juice to it, for lack of a better term. It's new blood in, old blood out. What it's very clearly saying is that this organization did not believe in Justus Onanen to be the goaltender of the future for this organization. And I think that you look back to the last year's draft, and the day that Ilya Nabokov was drafted by the Colorado Avalanche was the day that Justus Onanen stopped being the goalie of the future for the Colorado Avalanche.
I think you're right. Unless Justus was great, which he was good. Except against those upper tier teams, the Tampa being one of them. Man, they must have hated that Tampa start, which, like, Justus is the goalie who did straighten the ship a little bit this season. He was, and he showed some promise. I'm a little surprised still with this move, just because Scott Wedgwood is a solid veteran. He's nothing to write home about. Now, is he more reliable at this point than Onanen? Yes, I'd say so. He's better than Kakkonen.
Marginally, yeah.
Scott Wedgwood, I would notice him having some decent backup starts, rotational starts with the New Jersey Devils. but in the early 2020s. But he was a player who was put on waivers at some point. Yeah, he was put on waivers by the Devils. He was backing up Jonathan Bernier, former Av.
Former
And
Av Jonathan Bernier.
when
Great grab.
when Mackenzie Blackwood was hurt for the Devils. So we're throwing all the goaltender names out there. And he was solid, but then he finds himself on waivers, goes to the Coyotes. He was good. He's playing, he's overlooked because, he's getting starts for the Coyotes, backup starts for the Devils. This is like pre-Jack Hughes too. So
the Wedgwood Blackwood days, I miss those for New Jersey.
Back when there was so much promise with him. He's a reliable goaltender. Then he goes to, he's a backup for Dallas. He's a good backup. That's what, it's Georgiev's job now. He's the one again, and Wedgwood is the more reliable veteran backup. They don't want to deal with the babying, the growing pains of a 24-year-old on and in. Is it a little short-sighted, though? Is this it? Is this the only move for the rest of the year? Onninen's going to go back up UC Saros in Nashville. In fact, he was the backup tonight in Nashville's overtime loss in Minnesota. There's going to be a slightly older Finnish goaltender in Saros now mentoring the younger Finn in Justus Onninen.
Look how that worked out pretty well for Nashville the first time around.
Pecorine to UC Saros. I'm surprised. We'll see. If Onninen turns into something, we'll look back on this and we'll be like, damn. If he doesn't, then, well, they shored some things up. They took a safe option. I don't necessarily blame them for that, for a team that is in a win now mode.
Listen, it doesn't make much of a difference for me whatsoever. It really doesn't. It's a backup goalie for a backup goalie. Onninen it's not like he was a first round pick. Like it's not like he was who's the kid in Nashville? The
Askarov,
the Russian, Yaroslav. It's not like he was Askarov. It's not like he was Jake Ottinger, who was like highly touted out of the U.S. national team when he got drafted early on in his career. This was a project goaltender, and unfortunately, just simply didn't work out. And the organization, I think, showed you, we tried. We thought his development would be faster, better. Thought he would take the bigger steps, and it just simply didn't happen. I think they believe in Ilya Nabokov, although his contract ends this year. I know his team in the KHL, according to Evan Rowell, and his reports have been saying that his team is trying to re-sign him in the offseason. I would be shocked if the Avalanche came knocking and he decided to go back to the KHL. If the Avs were like, hey, look, the only goalie we have signed is Scott Wedgwood. Come try and win the job. I bet you that it would come over. Daniel Miller says, is it time to talk about Bedsy's job? Hell no, it ain't. Dude, they're in the middle of 3 50-plus win seasons. They're a couple of years removed from the Cup with unprecedented injury issues over the past few seasons. It's not. It just isn't that time right now. I think if the team ended up missing the playoffs, sure, you can have that conversation, but the team likes him. The star players really like him. And if the Avalanche you remember what happened earlier on this week when the Boston Bruins moved on from Jim Montgomery because, well, the roster wasn't exactly what they wanted it to be. And they started off as a middling team in the Eastern Conference this year. Well, they fired Jim Montgomery, who has the best points percentage in the National Hockey League over the last 4+ seasons. The St. Louis Blues hired him 5 days later. And they didn't just hire him because they had a head coaching vacancy. They fired a dude. They just fired a guy. They went to the guy and was like, hey, thanks for your time. We found someone better. Get the hell out the door. That would happen with Jared Bednar. The Avs would fire Bednar, and within a week, a team that didn't have a head coaching vacancy would create a vacancy for Jared Bednar. That's how well respected he is around the league.
No, that's a tremendous point. Yeah, Bednar would get hired in 2 days. He is a great coach. I love his demeanor. I love how he he doesn't get too high or too low. He's got a steadiness to him. And I think the team respects him. And this is an organization. Like, this is an operation. This is, from front office to head coach, the fluidity. There's a word I'm looking for in business terms. Synergy. That's the word I'm looking for. There is synergy from level to level. And Bednar, he took this team from 48 points to where they were. And they're still being dealt an injury hand. They are still without Ross Colton, Jonathan Drouin, Miles Wood, Josh Manson, Gabe Landeskog. Even the Landeskog, you can't discount how the Landeskog thing has been just a wrench in everything. No, Jared Bednar would get swooped up immediately. And who are you going to place him with? Who are you going to replace him with? Joe Sacco or a Joe Sacco kin? No.
Yeah.
Come on. There's Bruce Boudreau. You're going to go hire him from the NHL Network? I don't know who. Patrick Waugh, would you have brought Patrick Waugh back if he was still sitting on his couch? If you think that there's a magic fix there, and look what happened to the Joe Sacco Boston Bruins. They just lost to the freaking Penguins at home. We saw that on TNT before the Stars game last night. They were up 1-0. They lose 2-1. They only score 1 goal. They got their little new coach bump for a few games. Now the Sacco Bruins are going to be who the Sacco Bruins are. Hey, Jim Montgomery's Blues, they won a couple games. They score a late goal to force overtime against the Flyers. Then, bam, Michkov scores right off the bat. Only 1 point for you, Jim Montgomery. Like, the new coach bump is fun for a few games, and then you are who you are. I don't know. I know that, like, Craig Berube sparked the Blues, but that team was in the dumps. They were absolutely nothing. This team is still over 500. Jared Bednar is a great coach. He's got great hair. He looks great in a suit. I don't want him going anywhere. Sometimes that's half the job, to be honest with you.
Let's head on out to Ball Arena Spring. D-Mac is joining us live from ice level after the Avs fall to the Edmonton Oilers. 4-1 is your score. I've been talking about the Scott Wedgwood trade
Hey guys,
today. D-Mac, what's
this
up, buddy?
is one of these weird ones where I think it takes a second for things to click in, so I can't hear you, but I think you can hear me. So I'm just going to talk for a second, and hopefully it clicks in. If it doesn't click in, I'll let you know, but I'll just tell you how things were in the locker room in the building, and that was dead as a doornail. No energy. Bednar said no energy. There wasn't a lot of really energy in this building aside from Oilers fans and the visiting fans. Oh, Raj, I got you now. I got you. Talk a little bit, Raj.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
You're frozen. All right, anyways, let me just tell you. First of all, we should really just go on and on about Syracuse winning. That's a bigger deal, but I'll stow that for a second. Lifeless, no energy, no hop, no scoring from the big guns. Not really Georgie's fault. And now they start a 5-game road trip. And they just got to pick this up somehow, or it's kind of this weird hockey malaise that they're just stuck with right now. And I don't know how else to put it, man. And until you get some scoring and production from your big guys on a more consistent basis, you're gonna be in this rut maybe for a little bit. So I apologize for my technical issues. I love both you guys. I'll say good night. This is nothing that you wouldn't know from just watching on TV if you could find the toothpicks to keep your eyes open, frankly. And this is after the Avalanche actually had a lead. So again, sorry for the technical problems. That's the report. As dead and as low energy as you thought it might have been, multiply that by 10. You're right on that instinct. And there's a new goalie. Wedgwood, Underwood, whatever. Dude's like 31. He's barely played hockey in the NHL, but we got him now and expect him to play on the road trip. All right, I'll say goodbye. Raj is frozen. I can't even see Spring. I mean, that's par for the course today. Tap me out of here. Get me out of here. Let me get home so I can bask in the glow of Syracuse.
That's D-Mac live from Ball Arena with a little bit of a report from tonight's game.
It's the Ball Arena Wi-Fi. I've been on it before. It's okay. It's okay. Yeah, Syracuse, man. Hey, congrats. to you, Raj, and all the Syracuse alum, all you journalism degree having fools. And hey, thank you for helping out Dabo Swinney and Clemson. Thank you
Well,
so much. If there's
I
one
hate
man
that.
that I want to see win today, even when he lost at home to South Carolina, it's Dabo. So thank you so much. You
Yeah.
send him to the ACC championship game.
Speaking of help that didn't need to be had tonight, well, BYU tried every which way to lose a football game against Houston, and Houston just can't get out of their own way, man. CU should have been playing in the Big 12 title game, and Houston couldn't find a way to get over bungling BYU, who tried to lose the football game 7 different times in the second half.
Yeah, it sucks because CU beats and I know Okie State, they're gonna go over, you're gonna get bageled in Big 12 play this year, but 52-0, like that's pretty legit. And it just feels like CU should have been in that Big 12 title game. Who is it gonna be? It's gonna be Arizona State versus BYU or Iowa State. I'm not sure.
I think it's Iowa State.
Okay, thank God, because we just saw ASU BYU. Screw BYU. Your season was for nothing. Thank you for absolutely nothing. Okay, yeah, that's brutal. And look at some Ohio State loses to Michigan. I'm sorry, but CU, speaking of dangerous, they're one of the 12 most dangerous teams in the country. And it's just a shame that, a little bit of some, coming out of last season, some growing pains, you look at the at Nebraska loss, like at the time, it was like a night game in Nebraska and they got Raiola and they think they're a new thing. But Nebraska, they've been shit all year. CU now goes into Nebraska and they crush them. Kansas State if CU played Kansas State now, they'd crush them. Kansas gets hot for 2 weeks. That's garbage. CU is one of the 12 most dangerous teams. And Alabama's going to get in. I hate this. Yeah, they might. They have a better chance of CU than getting in than CU. I'll say that. That sucks.
I mean, CU's not getting in. There's no shot.
No, there's no way.
Chance.
Yeah, it's done. But like 50, Hunter Shadur 52-0. End of the year. I want to see that in the playoffs. America wanted to see that in the playoffs.
Knocking Miami out of the ACC title game just feels wonderful to me. That feels like a fraud of a football team that thankfully got exposed at the end of the year. And unfortunately, like, could you see Arizona State making some waves in the playoffs somehow?
You know what? I actually can. To me, ASU is the other dangerous. Like, I don't think Iowa State's that good, actually. ASU's interesting. I kind of like that team. And I wanted to see ASU versus CU. I hate Dion. He really likes that young coach at Arizona State who's doing a great job. They got Scatabo, that running back who's fun. I wanted to see ASU CU. We're getting robbed. College football fans are getting robbed.
The 2 worst teams in the Pac-12 would have been facing off in the Big 12 title game just 1 year removed. It would have been insane. All right, Spring, let's look through the rest of the National Hockey League this evening, get some scores before we send everyone off to bed. It's late on your Saturday evening. People are getting the Sunday scaries after the long weekend. 12 games along with the Avs losing 4-1 to the Oilers. The Sharks double up the Kraken 4-2 this evening. Cody Ceci scores his first goal of the season. And while the Avalanche you should be upset with the loss, right? Like they looked toothless, as we were saying. Well, you could be a Vegas Golden Knights fan tonight, and you could have lost 6-0 at home to Utah.
Yeah, and we will live, and it's the people listening to the show, Avs fans, Av Nation, Avalanche territory. We will live in our own little echo chamber. But you look around the league, and there are ups and downs for every single team in this league. 6-0 at home for Vegas. That's crazy. That's crazy.
That's a down. Little backhand saucer pass from Kirill Kaprizov in overtime to Jared Spurgeon for his third of the year. Ends the game 3-2 at home for Minnesota over the Nashville Predators. The Islanders shut out the Buffalo Sabres by a score of 3-0 at home. 29 save shutout this evening for Ilya Sorokin. The LA Kings get 5 goals en route to a 5-2 win over the Ottawa Senators. They come back after trailing in this game 2-1, 2 goals from Adrian Kempe, who gets his 12th of the season. And the Flyers get an overtime winner for Matvei Michkov on the breakaway. 3-2 is the final over Jordan Binnington, who had the save of the night tonight. Did you see the save he made?
I did not.
Holy smokes. A little reach back, no stick, wide open net, and just grabs the puck off the goal line. It was sensational, but the Blues do fall in overtime. Michkov, that guy's the real deal.
Yeah, no, he's very good. Did you mention the Sharks score? You know who the pluckiest team in the NHL is right now? The Sharks. The Sharks. They sweep the home and home against the Kraken. They outscore Seattle 12-7 in those 2 games. They've won 3 out of their last 4. They've scored a ton of goals. Celebrini's fun. I mean, they're not going to do much this year, but the Sharks are they're on the up a little bit. And then here's another score. Pittsburgh's won 3 in a row. They beat the Flames 6-2.
6-2. They get 3 points from Chris Letang this evening. Sidney Crosby adds in a point as well. The Capitals stay hot. 6-5 is the final over the New Jersey Devils on the road. The Maple Leafs get a 5-3 win over Toronto, and the Rangers snap a 5-game losing streak, 4-3 at home over the Montreal Canadiens. Artemi Panarin scores his 13th of the season, and if they're going to go anywhere, they're going to need Mika Zibanejad to start to score. He scored on the power play tonight, his 5th of the year.
Oh, barely, though. Barely. New York's up 3-1 in this game. Then Cole Caulfield and Nick Suzuki score, make it 3-3. Then Kirby Dach has a double minor in the high stick, and in the final few minutes of regulation, and Capo Caco scores. So a double minor really gifts the Rangers an end to their losing streak mercifully. I mean, that's a win. You take it. It's 2 points, but it wasn't easy. At home against the team they should beat, the Rangers continue to struggle just a little bit. Hey, before we get out of here, Raj.
What's up?
Got numbers for you, okay?
Ooh.
Looking this up.
Give me.
Alexander Georgiev's save percentage this year. So far, even through tonight, 87.2. Eustace Onanen save percentage so far this season, 87.2. The exact same.
That seems
the
about right.
Exact same save percentage.
Seems about right.
But one of them's younger,
cheaper,
with less experience, and they're just going to go more proven right now. Georgiev might have the exact same relatively poor numbers as Onanen, but at least he's proven. At least Scott Wedgwood is proven as a backup. They're going to go proven right now.
I wonder if that's the last goalie deal that they're going to make this season. I don't think it's going to be the last trade that they make this season. This Avalanche team is not done. This is not the team that if they're going to hoist the cup again, I don't think this is the exact roster that's going to do it. I still think there's a few moves that they're going to have to make. You're either going to have to bring in some grit, some size in the forward unit, maybe a little bit on the backside for the defense. Just to give some physicality to the team. Then for me, you guys know what I want. I'm the riverboat gambler with John Gibson, who continues to play some good hockey. Still many months and many weeks until the NHL's trade deadline hits in early March this year. But that'll do it for us this evening. Avs fall 4-1 to the Edmonton Oilers. We will talk to you guys in 2 days' time when the Buffalo Sabres host the Avs in the first of a 5-game road trip on the East Coast that'll span the course of just over 10 days. But for spring, I'm Raj. Thank you so much to our friends and our sponsors at Safeway for providing Between the Pipes to all you guys here on Twitch, on YouTube, and on Altitude Sports Radio's Twitter account. We'll talk to you guys Monday evening around 7:30 or 8 p.m. Thanks to all of you guys for spending your Saturday night with us. We love you. Can't do the show without you guys. Hopefully the next time we talk to you will be with an Avs win. Good night.